Welcome into episode 10 of Bloops and Barrels. Adam, the Big Ten regular season is in the books. It's the best time of year. It's postseason time. How are we doing?
Oh, I'm jazzed up. I mean, we've got postseason softball. We got 12 team Big Ten tournament starting this week. We have so much softball to talk about.
Well, let's start with some of the headlines from this past weekend, senior weekend across the conference. A lot of important results, exciting matchups have to start. Nebraska sweeps Penn State on the road, clinches sole possession of the Big Ten regular season title. They'll enter the Big Ten tournament this week as the number one seed. Wisconsin takes the series from Rutgers, Indiana, sweeps Illinois. Purdue wins 2 of 3 on the road from Iowa. As a result, Iowa not in the 12-team field for the Big Ten tournament. Ohio State, and maybe the biggest surprise of the weekend, takes 2 of 3 from Washington, and the Huskies are in free fall. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And the other huge result that we have to talk about, we'll come and circle back to it in a second, but Oregon takes 2 of 3 on the road from UCLA. Michigan sweeps Michigan State, and Northwestern takes 2 of 3 at home against Minnesota. But let's start with the headliner, Oregon, UCLA. What were your reactions from, I think we were both a little surprised by this result.
Yeah, I mean, I think we expected UCLA to probably win 2 of 3, if not take the sweep at home. But Oregon, I mean, the bats came alive. I mean, we saw Elon Butler get going a little bit, but really Amari Harper and Stephanie Maake had fantastic weekends. I think the biggest storylines, though, for both teams came down to the pitching. Taylor Tinsley, we've talked about all season long. If everything is on Taylor Tinsley, then in big games and in big moments, UCLA is really susceptible to losing, and that's what we saw. Tinsley gave up 8 earned runs in game one. 6 of them came in the seventh inning. So you can kind of just tell later into that start, things kind of unraveled. And then Taylor Tinsley came out of the bullpen in game two. 5 2/3 innings of work, gave up 5 earned runs. UCLA did have 3 errors in that game. So she did allow 10 runs, 5 of them unearned. But it's just too much pressure on her when the rest of the bullpen and the rest of the arms aren't performing because at the end of the day, she cannot do everything. She was ended up being pretty good in game three, closing things down, 2 1/3 innings of work, scoreless with 3 strikeouts. But there's too much pressure on her arm for UCLA, especially when the bats aren't quite as good as they have been at times this year. I mean, in game one, I mean, they only scored 2 runs.
I certainly agree with all of that, but I think for me, the headline is for Oregon at least and their postseason chances. Stephanie Maake looks like Stephanie Maake again, and Oregon got a great version of Elise Sokolsky on Friday, and like you said, just not the best Tinsley weekend. But I think the main thing from this series is I think there's a chance now that neither of these teams are top 8 national seeds, which is huge for super regional hosting implications. Had UCLA won the series or had Oregon been able to win the Sunday game and sweep, I think Oregon would have jumped into the top 8 discussion. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we break down the Big Ten tournament bracket game by game. But right now, UCLA is sitting at 7 in RPI, Oregon at 9 in RPI. And when it comes time for the committee to choose seeds, I think they both might be seeds 9 and 10 nationally, which would have them on the road on Super Regional weekend if both teams are able to get that far. And that's a huge difference for both these teams who have been a lot better at home this year.
That's a really important point. Nebraska will definitely be able to host a super regional, assuming that they win their regional, which they certainly should. But yeah, just with especially the strength of the Big Ten, UCLA and Oregon might end up slotting slightly lower than one of those top 8 spots. If UCLA had won 2 of 3 in the series, that they're probably safely still in that top 8.
Well, now that all 204 Big Ten regular season games have been played, technically 203 because Illinois and Michigan State had a game get canceled, the stats are finalized, and it's time for us to submit our final awards picks. Obviously, we don't have a vote that is submitted by the coaches, decided by the coaches. But speaking of coaches, let's start there in terms of the 4 big awards. Big Ten Coach of the Year, Adam. Who do you have?
Well, it's got to be Ronda Revelle. I mean, talk about this Nebraska team, the one of the best teams in the entire country, highest ranking in program history. It's their first outright Big Ten championship in team history. They end the season with just one Big Ten loss, 6 losses overall, 2 top 1 victories earlier this year in the first couple weeks of the season. What Ronda Revelle has done with this Nebraska program is unmatched compared to any other team. And there's a lot of good storylines in the Big Ten this year in terms of coaches, but I think Ronda Revelle takes the cake.
I think this is the easiest of the 4 awards to choose. I agree. It's Ronda Revelle. And I think it's a mix of what you were saying, the on-field product, and a lot of the on-field decisions, like a lot of games that have been won by just Revelle pressing the right buttons at the right time. You talk about the decision to have Fromm this year as more of a closer situation, 10 saves on the year, and just that 1-2 combination of Jensen and Fromm. And then also, it's a mix of great recruitment, great retainment, it is a really complete roster that is well built, top three in pitching, top three in offense, and they played a really tough non-conference schedule. Just so impressive on the year, and I think that gives her the nod for coach of the year.
Okay, what about freshman of the year? Because I think that is where things get interesting, maybe a little bit more interesting than coach of the year, but I still lean toward Nebraska.
I feel very different than you on this matter. You can go ahead. Actually, why don't you go first with the Alexis Jensen case?
I think, I mean, at the end of the day, Alexis Jensen, I mean, she has been unbelievable. And I have a feeling you're going to go and talk about Northwestern's ace, Marina Mason, which
I am.
completely valid. And I want to shout her out because I think that she put a great late season push. If Northwestern maybe was a team that we've seen in previous years, maybe a team that was going to host a regional, a team in the top 20 of the RPI could have a different conversation. But Jensen has played in bigger games and she's performed at a higher level, I think, in those bigger games. At the end of the day, she's got a 21-2 record, 2.72 ERA, 185 strikeouts to 31 walks in just under 130 innings of work. She has been filthy. She has been dominant. She has been so good. And there's been so much asked of her in such a huge role. It feels like she was the missing piece that Nebraska needed this season to have the season that it ended up having. And I think from a freshman to do what she's done, and the opportunity and the responsibility that she's been given, it's unparalleled to anyone in the Big Ten in terms of the high pressure game situations that she has played in.
I think that is a totally valid argument. But even setting aside the Northwestern poster and hat you can see in the background, I think the answer is pretty clearly Marina Mason for me. And I know Jensen, 21-2, more strikeouts, but Marina Mason, a superior ERA, 2.12, in 17 more innings on the year than Jensen, nine more complete games for Marina Mason, 14 total on the year, including seven shutouts, which is tied for most in the Big Ten with only Jordy Fromm, and a much better batting average against. Number one batting average against in the entire Big Ten. And if you limit it just to the in-conference stats, and I do think when these awards are selected, when it's coaches who are making the decisions, things are going to favor what happened in conference play. I know Jensen went 12-0 in Big Ten play, but Marina Mason, a better ERA in 28 more innings with more strikeouts. And for me, also, it's just part of a narrative element. Where would this Northwestern team be without Marina Mason? Well, Jensen, it's not her fault, but is the number two pitcher for that Husker staff behind Jordy Fromm. Marina Mason has had one of the biggest workloads on her shoulders of any player in the Big Ten. I could make the argument that she is perhaps the most valuable player to her team in the entire conference. And as much as Alexis Jensen has been great, and Allison Oneacre, Anna Moore, and a handful of the UCLA Bruin freshmen deserve shout-outs, I think it's Marina Mason. And I think this past weekend really just put the final bow on the season. She was fantastic against Minnesota. And you also saw what happens for Northwestern when she's not in the circle. You lose on Saturday because without her, Northwestern has looked rudderless at times.
I agree that she is the most important player to their team in the conference. However, I also agree that these awards are very storyline based. And I think that Alexis Jensen's impact on a team that is one of the top teams in the entire country versus Marina Mason's impact on a team that is a very borderline NCAA tournament team is part of the difference that means that voters will end up going with Alexis Jensen. Also think about if Nebraska didn't have Jordy Fromm and Alexis Jensen pitched all those extra innings in the sixth and seventh innings deeper into games and picked up more complete games, then I think that you would be saying similar things about Mason,
Might be
as
true.
you would with Jensen. So I don't think she should be penalized for having probably the pitcher of the year in the Big Ten beside her.
Well, let's talk about it. So does that mean you have Jordy Fromm as your Big Ten pitcher of the year?
Oh, 1000%. I mean, 1.26 ERA, 164 strikeouts and 138 and two-third innings of work. And how about the walks, too? I mean, just like no walks, 22 walks in that frame. The batting average against is below 200. And she has been so impressive. And I think the part of that is being able to close games and picking up all those saves, 10 saves. So when you put all of that together, the stats, the important games, the dominance, I think Jordy Fromm takes the cake. And I know earlier in the season, I was very much Lindsey Grind, Lindsey Grind, Lindsey Grind. But as soon as Grind started to fall off, I mean, Fromm kind of became a runaway favorite, I think, in this award.
My answer is Fromm as well. And Tinsley still deserves mention. Grind deserves mention. Even Marina Mason has worked her way into the conversation. But you mentioned the ERA is the best in the conference at 1.26. The next closest is Marina Mason down at 2.12. It is by far the best in the conference. The walks was a stat I was going to bring up as well, but also second in the conference in strikeouts per 7 innings and first in whip, 0.88. And if you limit it to just conference play, that goes down to 0.72. So I'm with you. I think it's Jordy Fromm. I don't think we need to spend too much more time on it. As much as there are some other good options, I think Fromm separated herself in the last few weeks of the season. But now it's time, I think, for the most interesting conversation of all of them, the Big Ten Player of the Year debate. I think it's a three-horse race, and I'm curious where you go.
I mean, for me, I've said it the entire season. If Megan Grant leads the conference in home runs, then she is the Big Ten Player of the Year. Um, However, I think that in a in a certain utopia, I think Megan Grant and Jordan Woolery could like split the award because I think they've both been as good as each other and they've made each other better too. I mean, the way that they get on base for each other too, specifically Grant for Woolery, makes that UCLA offense go. I mean, Woolery 106 RBIs, Grant 35 homers, Woolery is 33 homers. You're splitting hairs between the two most dominant players that we have seen in the Big Ten in the last handful of years, if not ever. I mean, they have put together one of the best seasons in not just UCLA history, but in softball history. And for them to continue hitting the home runs at the rate that they've had, for them to put UCLA on their back. I mean, I think those two come down to the top two options in this race. And Grant, because she's got more home runs, because that's been my focus point the entire season long. If she leads the Big Ten in home runs, then she will win the award. And I think that's where I lean toward.
Well, I think we need to address the elephant in the room, and that is that if I was a betting man, I think I would bet that Jordy Fromm is going to win this award. I am very serious about this. And we just talked about her pitching statistics. So what if you take the Big Ten Pitcher of the Year and she also hit 9 home runs and reached base in over half of her plate appearances? Because this is a coach's vote, I think she might be the favorite. But for me, when I was trying to build the case, I wanted to get there and I just couldn't because I thought some of her biggest weaknesses came in some of the biggest games of the year. Her worst outings in the circle came against Texas, Tennessee, and UCLA this year. And I wish she had just rose to the occasion a little bit more against some of those top national teams. So for me, also by the slimmest of margins, I'm going to go with Megan Grant, even though her Woolery from it's all splitting hairs. But when you hit 35 home runs, I think you get the nod for me, even with way less RBI than Woolery. Grant has the superior on base percentage because of 60 walks. And one of my favorite stats on the year for Megan Grant, only one time all season for the past, what is it now, 3.5 month season, did she go more than 2 games in a row without a home run. Obscene. Just obscene. The consistency all year long. And I think when you're talking about the decision between her and Woolery, maybe it's a little biased towards what happened early in the season, but I just think Grant is the name you're circling in the opposing lineup when you're scared of who you're going to face. And it's both of them. There is no correct answer here, but I barely lean Megan Grant. But you seem upset about the fact that I think Fromm is going to win this.
I don't think Fromm is going to win. I think she'll easily win Pitcher of the Year, but Grant and Woolery's ability to provide the long ball and the power and the consistent offense, I think trumps
It's the
Fromm.
Otani argument, the two-way player. It's just in terms of
No,
value
it's true,
provided.
but I don't think what the player of that's not what the Player of the Year award is about.
But I think each coach votes differently. And I think
That's
there's a
no,
real
very
argument
true. That's
that
very
if
true.
you're looking in terms of total value provided to a team, that Fromm could be far and away the number one answer.
But I'm sorry, Megan Grant has an OPS of 1972.
I think it's a more special and unique season without a doubt. Uh, but I don't know. I really don't know. I'll be really interested to see who ends up winning it. I'm sure.
If it's not Megan Grant, then like honestly, it should be Grant and Woolery. That's what it should be. It should be like they should each get half of the award.
Well, that's a wrap on our awards coverage. I'm excited to talk about it next week once we finally know who has actually won those. We've been following these races all year. But speaking of big stakes, big decisions, before we break down our game by game Big Ten tournament predictions, let's zoom out and just talk about some of these teams on a national level and what they need to get themselves into the national tournament, to get themselves into a regional hosting conversation, super regional hosting conversation. Who do you think has the most at stake this week across the Big Ten?
I think it's Michigan. Michigan 40 in the RPI right now. They lost 2 out of 3 to Indiana a couple of weeks ago. They handled their business against Michigan State, but I feel very uncomfortable about a team that's on the fringe with a losing record in regular season in Big Ten play. They went 11-13 in Big Ten play. And I know that they had a really tough schedule, especially early in the year. I mean, they started off 0-6, against Nebraska and Washington, and then they won, 11 of their last 18 games. So definitely ending on a higher note, but you lose 2 out of 3 to an Indiana team that's kind of also on the fringe. They're probably on the inside of the NCAA tournament field, but Michigan has to win. They have a first round
Agreed.
matchup against Ohio State. That's a must win game. And then if they win that, then we'll see. But then they would face Nebraska next. If they were to beat Nebraska, then I think that they're definitely in. But that's obviously a huge ask against the number 1 seed. I think Northwestern and Purdue also are teams with a lot on the line. Both teams probably need wins to get in. The
I,
Cats,
I think Purdue needs multiple wins to get in. I think they
yes.
need to upset Oregon to even be in the conversation and maybe more. Northwestern, I agree. If they beat Penn State, I think they're probably on the right side just because the selection committee has been pretty forgiving to the Wildcats in the past few years. And obviously, if you go any further than that, you beat UCLA, you're feeling pretty good.
Oh
But
yeah, 100%.
I think a win against Penn State and the Cats should feel relatively solid about their chances.
Purdue absolutely needs a win against Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's another team that's probably safely in as well.
A win would definitely make you feel more confident if you get that win against Purdue.
Um, but yeah, Purdue would have to beat Oregon. Like they need to win multiple games in this tournament. Um, the teams that are definitely in Washington, UCLA, Oregon, Nebraska. UCLA and Oregon could definitely play their way into top 8 spots
I think
with
they would have to
wins.
reach I think they'd have to reach Saturday. I think they'd have to get to the finals for either team because those teams will be on a collision course as the 2 and 3 seed. And I think if you lose that game, you're knocked out. I think if either of these teams wins the entire tournament, that probably locks up a top
Yeah.
8 spot. Otherwise, I kind of lean no.
And then I mean Nebraska's got a top 8 spot. Washington, they're not going to host a regional at this
Well,
point.
I
I
think at this
feel
point for Washington, the conversation this year is the first time where instead of seeding just 1 through 16, the seeding is 1 through 32. So I think Washington could even fall out of that like 2 seed in a regional placement. Their RPI has really sunk. I think they're sitting at 29th right now. And yes, it's a 5-12 matchup, but we saw what Sydney Schwartz can do this weekend against a solid team in Northwestern. They need to take that matchup very seriously. They're in serious danger of falling into the 3 seed of a regional.
I still think the biggest one has to be Michigan though. Like that team just they need to win.
They feel pretty win in, lose out. They might need multiple wins. It's really hard to get a gauge on the selection committee on this time of year. Last year, I was super sure that with a loss, Northwestern was out, and they ended up being in. I wouldn't say comfortably, but I don't think they were the last team in the field either. So it's sometimes very hard to get a gauge. But let's start going through. Let's make our pick, starting with Game One. 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. in College Park Time, 12 seeded Minnesota, 5 seeded Washington. Who you have?
I actually have Minnesota in this game.
Okay.
I think with the way the Washington has played of late, you drop 2 of 3 on the road at Ohio State,
They've lost eight
even
of
if
nine.
and going further back.
Yeah.
But those were against some better
Very
teams
good teams.
in the UCLA and Oregon series. So I take that with a grain of salt. And they were competitive too in those series, especially against Oregon. But to do that against Ohio State, it has me a little bit worried. And then you have to travel all the way across the country to College Park, Maryland, and face Minnesota. Um,
In that early time game, like you talk about body clock, it's a weird situation.
I like Minnesota. Give me Minnesota.
I am going to go with Washington. Mainly, I wanted to pick Minnesota because of all of the same reasons and what I just talked about with Sydney Schwartz. She's been so good this year. But Washington saw her really well when these two teams played in a series in April. And I am going to give the nod to Washington just because I think Minnesota's offense is just so rudderless. I can't see them scoring more than 2 runs in this game. And I think Washington will be able to get enough, even though single game elimination tournament, we see some of these low seeds advance every year. 12 seed Purdue made a run last year. I am going to go with the Huskies in this one, even though it's kind of no fun. How about 9 seed Michigan, 8 seed Ohio State? Rivalry matchup, first round. We already outlined the stakes for Michigan. Who do you have?
I'll take the Wolverines. I just think that they know how to win at this time of year. And we saw it last year with Lauren Durkowski. Obviously, they don't have Durkowski this year, but I think that Michigan team, they just know how to get it done in the Big Ten tournament.
Second straight game, we are on opposite sides. I'm going with Ohio State. When these two teams played a few weeks ago, it was a really weird series. First game was a high-scoring, close game, and then two run rule blowouts, one for each side. But Ohio State has just been better over the last few weeks. I know Michigan has picked up wins, but they've been against lower quality opponents. Ohio State has been able to get some wins against some real heavy hitters, and that includes 2 out of 3 against Washington this past weekend. They took a game from Oregon. I've been really impressed with the Buckeyes, and obviously second in the conference in home runs. They're able to mash. And I think that will travel to College Park. So give me the Buckeyes. 10-7 matchup, Purdue, Wisconsin. Definitely one of the more curious ones. I think this is one of the ones I highlighted as just a flip a coin, pick them either way.
I fully agree with that. I'm going to go to Purdue, just because I saw what Julia Gossett did in the Big Ten tournament last year, and Mariah Poehler has had arguably, I mean, she could have been in the conversation for Big Ten Player of the Year if we haven't seen what Jordy Fromm or Megan Grant or Jordan Woolery have done. I honestly think she's probably a top 5 candidate.
Yeah, why not? That said, I'm going with Wisconsin. We continue to pick against each other. Wisconsin took 2 out of 3 when these two teams played earlier this year. That series was in West Lafayette, neutral site. I just think Wisconsin is a better team. I think they're honestly a superior offense and might have superior pitching. As good as Gossett was in the Big Ten tournament last year, she's been really up and down over the last month to 6 weeks or so. And I think Wisconsin's been playing really well despite a really weird final game of the regular season loss to Rutgers in rural fashion. Give me Wisconsin. And then final round of the first round, final matchup of the first round, I should say. Are we going to pick against each other in all four?
No, I don't think so.
7 seeded Penn
I
State,
think
6 seed
we'll be on the
Northwestern.
same page here.
I think so too.
Yeah.
We're going with Northwestern. In these one game tournament formats, I think we both probably lean towards pitching can really carry the way. And we've already talked about how good Marina Mason has been. And as much as Penn State's had a handful of arms who have been good contributors at time this year, it's been inconsistent. And I just feel better about Northwestern's ability to shut down the Penn State offense than vice versa.
And these two teams faced each other a couple of weeks ago, and Northwestern cleaned house.
On the road in Happy Valley as well. All right, so moving on. You have Minnesota versus Indiana. I have Washington versus Indiana. Who do you like in that matchup?
Give me the Hoosiers. I just think there is too much offense on that team. They'll break out. I'm actually very interested to see though what you have between Washington and Indiana.
I comfortably have Indiana. I think Indiana is a team that is probably seen as a team that has played a Mickey schedule because, frankly, they kind of have. Their best win on the year, I don't know. Is it Michigan? Like it's a really weak schedule both in Big Ten and in non-conference play. But eye test wise, I just think this team is pretty good. The pitching is way better than last year. I believe in the Hoosiers, so I'm going to take them over Washington, a team that, as we've already highlighted, is just reeling. Next up, one seeded Nebraska. You have them facing Michigan. I have them facing Ohio State. Do we both have Nebraska? Do we need to
Oh
talk
yeah,
about this
it
one too
doesn't
much?
matter. It doesn't matter
Okay,
who they're facing.
awesome. Well, we'll quickly then move on to two-seeded Oregon, who usurped UCLA for that spot this past weekend. And you have them going against Purdue. I have them against Wisconsin. Do you have another upset here?
I don't know. I really want to take Purdue, but I think Oregon, there's just too much talent on that team right now, and they're peaking at the right time. I mean, we saw Stephanie Maake, we saw Amari Harper have like awesome weekends, and Elise Sokolsky had some nice pitching in stints against the Bruins. I just think the Ducks right now are they're getting on the right track. They're finding themselves.
Oregon is really hot right now, and it my bracket right now is so chalk. So far, I think I have picked the higher seeded team in every single game, and
Yeah, see, you can't do that.
that will not happen. So part of me really wants to take Wisconsin as my fun. You know what? I'll do it. I'll do it. Why not? Wisconsin over Oregon. The reasoning isn't necessarily there. It's just Wisconsin has been playing pretty well for about 4 weeks. And Oregon, we've talked about it all year, just a really inconsistent team. Their highs are high, their lows are low. And in a one game series where you have traveled 3 time zones, why not? I think Oregon could be got. And then final matchup of the second round, we both have Northwestern facing off against UCLA. Do you have another upset?
I really want to take Northwestern. Okay,
I know.
I'm gonna say there is a chance that like this is how Northwestern beats UCLA.
I have this matchup highlighted as another, like, I think this is a sneaky close matchup.
Yes. Number one, Taylor Tinsley just doesn't show up. We've seen that at times. It's happened this year. In games where she struggled, UCLA has just not won. Northwestern, Marina Mason's in the circle. She's fantastic. She pitches well. It's a low scoring game. We saw Northwestern go on the road last year against UCLA, take 2 out of 3, and that got them into the NCAA tournament. I think
And
UCLA
I think
is
there's a real argument that this year's Northwestern team right now is better than
Oh,
last year's squad.
100%. 100% better. 1,000% better. Um, and that got them in last year. I think some of that belief, some of that understanding that they've done it before, they can do it again. Um, at the end of the day, I just think UCLA, they'll probably win this one. This is not like an
I went
early
through the
game
same.
today.
I went through the same thought process. I also have the Bruins. I know they fell to the 3 seed. I know they had a tough weekend. You and I just both really believe in this UCLA team, even with some of the pitching concerns. All right, on to the semifinals. We both have Indiana, Nebraska. I comfortably have Nebraska.
Me too. I don't
Cool.
really think it's that much of a discussion.
You have Oregon, UCLA. I guess I have been kind of goaded into a Wisconsin UCLA matchup. Either way, even if it had been Oregon, I would be going with UCLA. I know what just happened this past weekend in LA, and I still believe in UCLA.
I still believe in you. UCLA's been my team the entire year. They've been a champion of the UCLA Bruins. And I don't care if they're playing Oregon. I don't care who they're playing. I have them favored in this game.
So 1 seed Nebraska, 3 seed UCLA, matching up May 9th, championship game, 4 p.m. Eastern. Who's the winner of the Big Ten tournament? Does Nebraska win both the regular season and conference title, tournament title?
They don't. I think the Bruins take care of business. It's one game, one opportunity. I think that, you know, big spot, big moment. Who knows what's going to happen? Honestly, it's probably a toss of probably 60% chance Nebraska wins, 40% chance UCLA wins, something like that. But I've been rolling with the Bruins.
Well, my thinking is, do you know what's really awesome to have when you have to play 3 games in 3 days is two
Having two
awesome
pitchers.
pitchers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going with Nebraska. I just the Fromm Jensen combination, I think they have plenty of offense to be able to support it. And listen, it is it. I'll say it again. Single elimination tournament. Randomness happens every single year. I think if it was Nebraska versus the field, I will take the field every day of the week. Even if you gave me top 2 seeds, Nebraska or Oregon versus the field, I'm probably taking the field because it is a chaos generator. And I think College Park will be a really fun host. We'll get to just see some crazy combinations. But I do think Nebraska is the best team in the Big Ten. So I have to pick them to win the tournament and double dip with the regular season title as well.
It's valid. They certainly have the talent to do it. And I think that Nebraska. I mean, I'm just excited for the Big Ten tournament. Like we've got softball on the Big Ten Network all
I think
weekend
this is
long.
my second favorite week of the softball calendar behind only Super Regional weekend.
I think it's a pretty good. That's a pretty good take.
Yeah, I mean, SEC tournament is going to be a lot of fun in Lexington. That's kicking off on Tuesday. Conference tournament week is awesome. But let's finish out the same way we always do. The best thing you saw in the Big Ten this week.
Well, I'm doing kind of like a it's a sneaky answer, and by sneaky, I'm being a little bit playful and not really diving too deep. But it's the bracket, like just having a bracket and being able to have this conversation and talk through who we think is going to win the Big Ten tournament and why and all the matchups and all the scenarios. That just really excites me.
For me, I want to talk about Iowa, who is a team who just fell short of the Big Ten tournament. But on senior day, did you get a chance to see Soraya Nice, who started on senior day for Iowa? She pitched well through the first few innings. I wasn't able to get the win to extend their season, but she also sang the national anthem before the game, and she crushed it. It was awesome. Really cool senior day thing with those happening around the country. And that was one of the most cool and unique senior day experiences I got a chance to see. So shout out to Soraya Nice, both her arm and her pipes. I was very impressed. But that will put a wrap on this week's Big Ten softball episode. Bloops and barrels. We're in postseason, Adam, and there are plenty of hours of softball to be watched this week. Please remember to like and subscribe on X at Bloops Barrels and on Instagram at Bloops and Barrels, it's all spelled out. We'll see you next week when we will have some postseason matchups, some regionals to break down. Thanks for tuning in.